Hi, I'm Mike Seymour, and we're about to shoot here on location with the Apple Vision Pro. Great location. But in fact, we didn't start here. We actually started this process about a month ago when we took the iPhone 15 and started filming in Japan for the Apple Vision Pro. In fact, we wanted to film spatially. Of course, at fxguide, we're super interested in how you do post-production. And so we thought, hey, what's the post for producing something that you want to make in spatial video? And that's a whole lot of hurt. First, you've got to understand spatial, which is not the same as 3D. You've got to understand how the Vision Pro works, what works for it, and how to film for it in various formats, including the iPhone and the R5 with the stereo-mounted Canon lens, and just filming using the headset itself. So to start that journey, let's pick it up in Japan, where we first started recording this new spatial format. Well, here we are in Japan on the day that the Vision Pro has first been released, and we're shooting a bunch of spatial videos here on the iPhone 15. The thing is, we're here shooting a huge variety of material because with the Vision Pro only just out, we really don't even know what's going to work well in terms of spatial capture. Of course, the 15 with the dual lenses is giving us spatial capture. We just can't witness what that spatial capture is just yet, but a second we can start viewing it and editing in the actual Vision Pro. Well, we're looking forward to that a lot. The thing about shooting on the Apple 15 Max Pro is that it's got two cameras relatively close together, so the interocular is close. So actually what we're getting here isn't as good as what you actually get off the Apple Vision Pro. The Apple Vision Pro will actually produce better spatial video, but certainly it's easier to film with an Apple 15 iPhone than it is to actually necessarily wear the headgear. But hey, people are doing it. And if you're in a domestic environment or somewhere that you're kind of cool to have a controlled environment, then you'll get a better result. Okay, well now I'm back in Sydney and I'm no longer in Japan as I was a moment ago on the streets. And what you're seeing is actually being recorded on the Apple Vision Pro. So this is Apple Vision Pro stereo filming. Now a moment ago I said when I was on the streets of Japan, it had better interocular distance because obviously it's a headset, right? So it's further apart. But because of computational photography, actually doesn't look that different. Now to prove a point, I'm simultaneously being filmed by the original iPhone 15 Max, right? So that's on this camera. Okay, so you're now seeing me in stereo filmed off the iPhone 15 like you did before, right? And we can just cut now between the stereo that is being computational photography is causing it to look like it's got the right interocular on this one and back to this one. Okay, so why would I want to film with the Apple Vision Pro? If you stay really still, then you can actually expand it out. But what we found is that when you're filming on the Apple Vision Pro, it's very hard to stay still. And as a consequence, you're going to get a square recording. So what you're seeing right now is a box that's filmed off the Apple Vision Pro. If you were to be filming off the iPhone, you'd get a rectangle. Yeah, so it's kind of actually pretty valid to be shooting off the iPhone. And I have to say, the iPhone, while shooting dual 1920 by 1080, produces really good imagery. So what are the tips for recording with either the Apple Vision Pro or the iPhone 15? The same things kind of apply. What we don't want to do is necessarily have things close to camera. So I found it kind of upsetting when I was playing footage back when I was right near a doorway. And the reason for that is the interocular just kind of screws up. So you want to have things with a bit of a distance. The second thing is, if you think about it, the reason that the Apple Vision Pro doesn't give you all the peripheral vision, so I could in fact be watching this back with Yosemite National Park around me, is because if your eyes are seeing wobbly motion and your inner ear isn't, that's classic seasickness, right? That's the classic problem with all VR up until now. So what we're actually getting is a way around that by Apple saying, look, we can't control what you film, but we will not give you all of the world totally enveloping you. So your peripheral vision knows, as your inner ear does, what your body is actually doing. And even though we see through a window stuff moving, we won't get car sick, we won't get motion sickness, we won't get boat sickness, any of those travel sicknesses that you get when there's a mismatch between those two. And so as fun as it is to want to have it completely immersive, that's not going to work when you just let people film normally. Now, of course, if I turn the environments on that's quite different, because when I'm turning the environments on, it's a 3D environment that has everything kind of fixed to the world geometry of the room, and I'm moving my head inside it. So when I'm on the moon in the Apple Vision Pro, it looks great, right? And I can move around. But you can't get from shooting with either the Apple Vision Pro or the iPhone 15 to making your own environment yet. I'm pretty sure that at some point in the future, whether that's 6 months or whether it's 3 years from now, we'll be able to capture and create our own environments. But for right now, you can't. And it's not the same as a panorama either. The panorama, we also shot in Japan. And these are shots that I took in and around various locations in Japan. And they're gorgeous, right? But again, they're not the same as an environment because they're just like wallpaper stuck on a huge cyc around me. They look impressive. This one I took in Hiroshima at the ground zero of the atomic bomb. It's terribly moving, it's terribly engaging because of the material, but it's not actually a three-dimensional representation of that nuclear dome, or the atomic dome as it's called. It is in fact just like wallpaper around me. Very impressive, kind of fun. And by the way, as I'm mentioning that, you want to make sure your wallpapers or your panoramas aren't too thin. In other words, you don't do too wide a one, because obviously it's going to then show you off the top and the bottom as you see here. If you do one that's kind of much wider than 16:9, but not as wide as you could possibly do, you get a pretty nice immersive feel. That being said, the killer stuff for me is when we can able to record stuff in stereo in either the phone or the headset, in my case for doing training and instructional stuff, because it's a really great way of seeing what's going on. Okay, so we're out here on location filming, and we're actually filming with the Vision Pro, which of course has multiple cameras built in that are able to film in stereo with a really nice interocular distance, which is terrific. And of course in this sun I can actually see through the visor where those actual lenses are. But we're going to film a shot here now, and we're actually going to film it 3 different ways. We're going to film it with the Vision Pro, then we're going to film it with a Canon R5 with the dual Canon lenses on it. So that's basically recording stereo. So what you're basically getting is the camera is filming 4K and it's shooting that at 60 frames a second. Of course, this isn't a format proprietary in any way to Apple. This is just general stereo. It's not, in fact, spatial at this stage. It's just stereo. Okay, and then we can do the same thing with the Vision Pro. And because I'm moving, I'm recording in its format that's spatial, but it's going to be a limited field of view. Okay, so here I can do the same thing. This time I'm walking with the iPhone, and you can see that I'm doing roughly the same move. And so we have the 3 moves done independently, and of course not identically, but with basically the same kind of formats, so we can see how they look when compared to each other. And there's one more thing I wanted to show you. In addition to the 3 ways that we've currently been talking about, our good friend Jason Diamond in New York got the same Canon dual lens and put it on his top-of-the-line Viper Red camera. So we actually have some additional footage which is actually shot in New York, and we're going to be looking at that in our part 2 as well, when we look at the post-production pipeline for editing all of this sort of footage up. Okay, well, it's been heaps of fun showing you this, incredibly complicated in some respects, but super interesting in another. Anytime new tech like this comes along, we just can't wait to get our hands on it. But I have to say, it's been a bit of a learning curve. But that's it from us. Thanks so much. See ya.